If you have questions, if you can please put them in the Q&A as opposed to the chat. So Matt and I are going to be kind of tag teaming tonight, going back and forth. So we will look at all your questions and answer. We might answer some of them to the whole group, and we might answer some of them just writing back to you, but please keep them in the Q&A as opposed to the chat. Before we get started, now that I've said please use the Q&A, if you guys could just pop in the chat, what is the graduation year for your student that you're hopping on this webinar to learn about? That's really helpful for Matt and I to kind of get a feel for who's here and what part of the process you're in. So if you could just put that piece in the chat, I can see people, that's great. That would be great, because then we kind of get a sense here. And as Mark said, I'll just say it again, because I know this is always a question. Saving for College is going to be sending out a recording of the webinar, so you can watch it again if you feel like you missed some stuff, and the slides. So that will go out tomorrow, and you're completely covered. The last thing I want to draw your attention to is in the chat, Matt has put a link.
I just popped it in again.
Okay, right, so he just put it in again. So that is a link to our free software called MyCap. So if you could go in there, you can onboard yourself in a couple minutes. If you could go in there and plug yourself in, Matt's going to be going into the technology during our event tonight. And it would probably be really cool for you to be watching what he's showing you and actually in your own portal. So if you want to hop in there and do that, that would be really helpful. Thanks.
And just to piggyback on that real quick, Peg, the idea is we're gonna deliver on what we promised tonight, right? And how to save thousands on the cost of college, and how does this whole thing work, and do's and don'ts. But that allows it to be dynamic. So when we talk about this is why this college is great with financial aid, this is why they're not so great, and here's where you're going to get a scholarship or not, you can see, is my kid going to get a scholarship here? Are we going to get financial aid here? Kind of in real time. In my opinion, it makes it more of a dynamic experience. Totally up to you, but that's something that we've got great feedback on as we've been doing this. And Peg, as expected, for the most part, we got class 2022 parents with their hair on fire. We'd have it no other way. That's what we're here for. And for those of you that are trying to get ahead of this thing a little bit, there's going to be plenty of value for each of you as well.
Yep. Kind of have a cross section.
That's right. That's right. And then the other thing is too, we want this thing to be interactive. So like Peg said, please try to challenge us, try to stump us with questions, put them in the Q&A. If you want to ask something that's more on the personal side, you can be anonymous in there. So have as granular question as you want, and we dare you to challenge us. So hold on, someone said, Peg, you go on. Somebody said that the site's not working, so I'll get that figured out and make sure we get the right link. But in the meantime, take it away.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so let's start. I just want to introduce myself, and then I'll let Matt do the same. So I want to start with the short story here. So one night I'm laying in bed, and I have twins, and they were seniors in high school at the time, Shannon and Brennan, and they're downstairs watching TV, just laughing and having a good time. And I sit up and I realize that I'm sobbing, and I turn to my husband, who was kind of surprised because I'm not a crier. And I said to him, we're not going to hear this laughter when the kids go off to school next year. And I remember that feeling that I had like it was yesterday. And the reason I'm sharing this is that I know I'm seeing the graduation years. I know a lot of you are pretty close to that reality. And even if you have younger kids in high school, you're in that chapter of kind of getting them ready to go on to their next chapter in their lives. And so it's just this perfect storm of emotions. After all, as parents, this is what we've been doing for 16, 17, 18 years, getting them ready to be somewhat independent and leave for college. So it's exciting, but it's a little melancholy, right? Because it's a new chapter and they're leaving. And then for your kids, they're super excited because, again, they get to make all their own decisions, be on their own. But even if they don't want to admit it, it's a little scary. It's a little scary to go out on your own and make all your own decisions. So I'm here to tell you, you'll get through it. And I get where you are. So when my kids hit high school, I did what I'm sure a lot of you have done. And my husband and I said, all right, we've been kind of saving for college, but now we got to figure this all out. They're in high school. And I realized really quickly that it was much more complicated and complex compared to when I was a kid. And the other thing that I realized is that a lot of my friends and colleagues were not doing a deep dive, and it was causing a lot of stress and friction within the family and financial stress as well. And I kind of had this aha moment because at the time I had been in the financial planning industry for about a decade. And I thought, you know what? I could combine my financial planning expertise with this deep expertise I had acquired around college financial planning and impact families even more. And so that's what I did. In 2014, I started a business called Way to the Quad, where my mission was really to help families navigate what I affectionately call the crazy world of financial aid, right? And understanding how to build a college list with affordability in mind. And I was fortunate enough to meet Matt and some of the other guys at College Aid Pro several years ago, and was using their software that they had developed. It was an integral part of my practice. And we had always talked about working together more closely. And in the summer, we started talking about that in a real deliberate way. And so I joined the team in September. So it's been a great synergy. I get to do what I want, like this kind of stuff, and I don't have to do the marketing and tech. So that's how I got to College Aid Pro. And that's really who I am, why I do what I do. So you want to take a minute, Matt, and just introduce yourself?
Sure, you didn't get to show your beautiful family. Hopefully everybody's going to get to see them after. But
I'll put it up now.
Yeah, so we so like Peg said, we've been or at least I can say, speaking for myself, I've been fans of Peg and what she's been doing for years, right? And that's ultimately trying to guide families through this super complicated, super overwhelming, super emotional, super expensive process that is sending your kids off to college and trying to figure out how to make it as affordable as possible and do it the right way, right? And that's not an obvious solution. I've been doing this my entire career, so almost 20 years, not too long after I graduated from college. I'm the oldest of three. And when I graduated, I looked around and said, there's got to be a better way to do this, right? I had an awesome experience, don't get me wrong, but I knew that it wasn't a great financial result for me. It wasn't a great financial result for my parents, and God bless them. They did the best they could, but they didn't know how to do this. They didn't know anything. And then I found out that wasn't a unique situation. We were just like most families, really. And that was kind of the genesis of the company I started to get, again, almost 20 years ago. And ultimately, we were trying to figure out what is the right way to do this, right? And we slowly but surely kind of figure out a way to do that and built a business off of that premise. And in the Northeast specifically, right? I'm from the Boston area. We had another office with one of my business partners just south of New York City in North Jersey. But what always bothered us was, number one, there wasn't a great technology in this space. So it was very, very labor intensive. And number two, the folks that need our help the most couldn't afford to work with us, right? Because, and we're great at our pro bono work and will continue to be, but the combination of those two things made us say, hey, listen, if we're going to be able to provide a solution to the masses, regardless of who you are, there's got to be a technology that does essentially what we do. So that was kind of the birth of College Aid Pro. And then again, in addition to trying to have a really robust technology, we wanted to find the best minds in this space, and we set out to do that. And that's how we ultimately recruited and eventually courted Peg well enough to get her to be formally a part of the team here. And that's kind of the deal. So Peg, has already been there, done that with her kids and her family. I'm coming from a little bit of a different perspective. Vicariously, I've done this tens of thousands of times over by guiding families through this process. I haven't done it myself yet, right? My daughter just turned 7 last week, but I will share with you what so much of the advice that's been shared with me over the years. And that is, even when I've said this to Peg many times over, and anybody that I get in front of, when my wife was pregnant with my daughter 8 years ago, all our clients would say, you're going to blink and your daughter's going to be a senior in high school. And you're not going to believe it. And I've heard that so many times that taken folks at face value and tried to cherish every second. And I've also just been a fly in the wall enough times in this process to know that, especially you class 2022 families that are in the middle of all the bullets are flying right now, right? And it's so stressful. There's so much pressure. But every year, at the end of the year, we give our clients a survey. And one of the questions we ask is, if you go back to the beginning of this process, what advice would you give yourself? And almost every family says, what I would do is I would say, you know what? Don't put so much emphasis on where do you get accepted, where do you not get accepted, how are you going to pay for it, is it affordable, what's the right way and what's the right loan. Those are all super, I totally understand those concerns, but what a lot of families lose sight of is, oh my God, this is the last year that my kid's going to be living under my roof, right? So I try to give families at the beginning of this process that advice and remind them along the way, and I totally get it. Easier said than done. But our hope is, like, number one, I'll remind every time I have an audience, I'll remind people of that. And hopefully after tonight, we can bring your shoulders down a little bit, at least let you know that there's some resources out there and there's some strategies there. We're going to make sure that you don't take the missteps that a lot of people do. And that's kind of our goal tonight, right? So let's help based on all of our experience. What are the do's and don'ts for your family, and how do we make this as affordable and hopefully, easy as possible here, even though it's not going to be easy, but let's take the path of least resistance here. So hopefully it didn't go on too long, Peg. I know folks want to hear the content of this whole thing, so I'll let you dive in here, and all your questions, put them in Q&A. I'm going to get them answered, and let's go.
All right. Okay. So as Matt said, between the two of us and our other people at CAP, we've helped hundreds of families like you, and very confident to say like you, because if you make tons of money, you're struggling to get by, you're divorced or separated, maybe you feel guilty, you haven't saved enough, or you've waited till the last minute to think about this. If any of those sound familiar, you're good. You're here, take a deep breath, and let's jump in. So I always commit to my audience what I'm going to teach you, what Matt and I are going to teach you tonight. I have a teaching background. We are going to teach you how to proactively approach paying for college instead of reacting to the colleges. And let me tell you a short story to give you an idea of what I mean. A couple springs ago, I had a mom reach out to me, and she was really excited because her son got into his dream school. But at the same time, she was calling me because she said they gave us $20,000 a year in a discount. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I have to pay 40 and I don't have the money. Can you help me? Well, at that point, that mom is not in a position of strength or power, and she's reacting to the college. So if you become informed and you have knowledge, and it sounds a little cheesy, but knowledge for parents and students in this process really is power, and it allows you to be an informed consumer. And these are some big ticket items you're looking at, right? Some of these schools are in the high 80s, right? Full sticker price. So when I talk to families, and when we talk to families, we always say, there's three kinds of fit. There's academic, personal, and financial fit. And tonight we're focusing on financial. They're all equally important. For some reason, the financial tends to be an afterthought sometimes. So kudos to you for being here and learning about financial fit. So this is the process that every parent goes through. And I actually made this up when I was going through this with my kids, because I was like, why don't I just describe this so parents know what's coming? So people that put in the chat 2022, you've kind of done what I call the pay less for college step. You've done a lot of that stuff. You probably have submitted financial aid forms, a lot of you, and you're coming up on the last two pieces here. But there were a lot of people that have juniors and sophomores that put into the chat. So you're at the top of this process. So we're gonna go through this at a very high level tonight. So let's look at this first step that we call pay less for college. So the first thing I want to tell you that might be a little surprising is that it's actually a buyer's market. And I really don't want you to focus on these
Peg,
high.
sorry, Peg, sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you, buddy. But I think we're seeing like the all the slides on the left hand as opposed to the slides that we want to get on. We didn't. I don't know if you want to play it from the current slide. There you go. Now we can. We missed our beautiful family, so we might have to end with that. But now, but let's see. It's still not showing just that slide.
I have no idea why it's doing that.
And it's like that'll work if that's as good as we can do. But if you just go to slideshow,
Yeah, I'm so that doesn't work.
Well, so you're on the right slide, but the other slides are kind of showing in the left-hand column. It's not in presenters mode. It looks like.
Huh.
But at least right now, the correct slide is showing front and center.
Is that any better?
Now you're on the first slide, the save thousands on the cost of
Yeah, I'm
college.
going. So is that better? Is that just seeing the one slide?
It's just not. Yeah, it's just not in present mode, right? Where we just see the slide we want to see.
Huh. Because I'm in slideshow like I always am. So
Yeah,
I don't.
You're getting some recommendations for some probably folks that have been doing a lot of Zoom.
You have to unshare it, go to slideshow, and then reshape it again. It's a Zoom sharing PowerPoint thing. I don't know
what I would say, but at least right now, unless to make sure, I think what's most important is the content. And right now we're looking at the slide that you're talking about, which is it's a buyer's market. So I think this is more than sufficient.
Okay, so you can see this slide.
We can see the slide. It's a buyer's market, and I'll interrupt you if we're not on the right slide.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what's going on. So I don't want you to focus on these.
Sorry, Peg. You know what? Let's just try this recommendation because it won't take long. And
sure.
And everybody, if we go past the hour, that's okay. We're going to own this time. But we're getting a bunch of different recommendations. But let's try this one. So I have unshare it. So maybe unshare your screen, and then maybe go back and share it again and play it from that slide in the way you would traditionally. And I can vouch for Peg. We did a PowerPoint presentation earlier today without any hiccups, and yesterday. So she does not tell a lie.
Is that better?
No, it's the same deal, but that's okay. We'll
let me just hold on. The last thing, if I go into slideshow, set up slideshow, presented by speaker, full screen. I'm just kind of winging this right now.
Don't worry about it, buddy. It's not, again, this is a different hiccup.
Yeah.
Mark, you know what it is? It's Mark's fault. I kid, Mark. I kid.
All right. Well,
don't worry, buddy. You're good enough. Go ahead. It's the content that matters, and everybody's going to have this full. We've had a bunch of folks join us since we got started, and just a reminder, you're going to get the full slide deck and the recording, so you're not going to miss this last couple of minutes.
So you're seeing this slide. It's just not.
We're seeing that slide. We're just seeing kind of the yes. Yep. You're good.
All right. Is it better this way, or do you want it this way?
Now we're doing it. Now is how it should look. So whatever this way is, you got it.
Oh, it's what I was doing before, but we'll just go with it. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. So it's a buyer's market, and I really don't want you to focus on these high sticker prices. And let me just show you an example of what I mean. This is an actual student that we worked with years ago. And you look at this public school versus a private school. So the full cost of attendance, that's sticker price, 27,000 versus about 51. And this family had an expected family contribution, which we're going to talk about in a minute, of 21.5. At the end of the day, what this student and this student's family was expected to pay was 27,000 at the public school, so no free money, versus 30,000 at the private school. So that's a really different conversation to have, a $3,000 delta versus almost double. And this is not uncommon. So I know it's counterintuitive, but keep this in mind when you're looking at schools that can be more expensive. That's why it's so important to understand how schools are doing things, which we're going to talk about in depth tonight. So how are we at a $3,000 delta from almost double? Colleges are discounting. They're all on sale. It's just a matter of how they go on sale. And if you look at these numbers quickly, you see over a 10-year period, tuition went up about 47%. During that same 10-year period, discounts went up 91%. So discounting is happening at a much higher rate than the tuition increases. So how are colleges doing this? They're doing this in one of two ways. They're either offering need-based self-help, that's loans, work study aid, which is based on your financial situation, or they're offering merit aid, which is non-need-based aid based on talents, grades, and test scores. So we're going to talk about both of those tonight. So there's a very simple equation that this all boils down to. This cost of attendance, the sticker price, minus this expected family contribution. That's how the colleges decide, hey, do you have financial need or not? And that's why you're submitting financial aid forms to calculate this EFC is what we call it. So cost of attendance, as most of you probably know, tuition and fees, room and board, books, there's transportation thrown in there and some miscellaneous personal expenses. So that's the total cost. So what is this expected family contribution? It's the minimum annual amount that the colleges think you as a family can pay for 1 year of school. And there's 3 different methodologies, except for one family, and it happened to me about 3 months ago. I've never had a parent who sees an EFC and says, yeah, I can cover that peg. Usually people are flabbergasted at how high the number is. So just keep that in mind. So Matt, I think this would be a good time to hop into MyCap and just look at an actual family to kind of give some foundation to what I'm talking about here. Oh, you're muted.
Peg.
We're having a hard time.
It's Mark's first day. You think it's our first day here? Get it together. Mark's like, he's the only veteran on presenting tonight here. So I just put the link in the chat again, right? And here is I will and hopefully Peg, we can get it right this time. I'm going to do my very best. So what we're going to do is I popped in as Peg was talking here. I popped in an actual kind of case study, for lack of a better word, of I'm in the Mass area. Again, a bunch of you have joined us since we got started tonight. So I'm just north of Boston. And what I did is I popped in an average family of 4, according to census data, income and assets, and put in a few schools to take a look at, right? And what Peg just showed us, the need-based financial aid calculation, the reason why the EFC is so important is because that's the foundation. That's what dictates ultimately, are we eligible for financial aid? How much financial aid are we eligible for, and at which colleges? Because it varies dramatically, and that's what we're about to walk through in a second here. But one of the reasons why we encourage everybody to go through MyCap, and especially if you're a class of 2022 family, and it's I shouldn't say especially because it's important for everybody, but you get to find out kind of instantaneously, what's my EFC? Am I going to be eligible for financial aid? That's why we like doing the presentations in kind of a dynamic fashion, because hopefully some of you have this in front of you right now and you're saying, well, this is my family's EFC, not just kind of a dummy example here. But this is some of the big takeaways that we want to look at instantaneously. Now, for most families, the cost of attendance, or another word of saying that is the sticker price of a college, is irrelevant, right? For most families in the United States, the cost of attendance or sticker price of a college is irrelevant. That's not necessarily common knowledge, right? So Amherst College, for those of you that haven't heard of it, it's a really prestigious, really expensive, great college here in Massachusetts, out in Western Mass. It's $80,000 a year, right? Our in-state flagship university is UMass Amherst. For an in-state student, it's about $33,000 a year. But for this, again, average family, this isn't an anomaly of a situation. Their cost, what they're going to actually pay, is almost identical. So the $80,000 college is going to be the same price as a $30,000 college, right? And if we look at NYU, we put another couple of examples here. NYU has almost the same sticker price as Amherst College, but it's wildly more expensive. Why is that? Because they don't meet they're not as generous in terms of meeting need-based financial aid, right? Now, if I wanted to drill down on any of these colleges, and if we look at NYU for an example, we can do that. And it's going to kind of give us the statistics, say, well, how did we get there? Well, here's their sticker price, and this is how much they're going to give us in a discount. And if I want to unpack anything, I can get some of their most important, admission statistics here, and specifically financial aid statistics, like we like to call their business model. I can see that, okay, they don't meet a very high percentage of need. Now, I'm getting really far in the weeds here. For most of you, what you just want to know, and you don't have to do too much thinking here, is what is this school actually going to cost me? Can I afford it? Can I not afford it? Am I going to get financial aid? Am I going to get a scholarship? And if so, how much? And to that point, for every college in the country, we have every scholarship that they offer, the qualifications for each, and the technology is going to tell you how much, if any, is my kid actually going to get. But again, one of the first things that we want you to do is put your information in here. It takes 2 minutes to get on board and see how much these schools are actually going to cost you. So that's a good place, hopefully, to start to see why that EFC is so relevant. And we'll circle back here to talk about, well, what if we're not eligible for financial aid? How do I find schools that are going to be more cost effective if that's my family situation? And then the next layer is, just because I know what a school costs, how am I supposed to know if my family can actually afford it? Is this a good outcome? Is this a good investment? So we'll circle back and talk about that. But Peg, hopefully that at least gives a little bit of color to that equation: cost of attendance minus EFC equals need here.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share my screen again here. Okay, so that gives you kind of an overview of the EFC. Okay. So now let's get into this second piece that we call forms and figures. So there's 2 financial aid forms, and you notice when Matt was showing his screen that there's 3 different numbers up there. There's 3 different methodologies to calculate EFCs. The first one is the federal methodology. So most colleges in the country only require the FAFSA. It stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. The highlights here of this form are, no, you do not include retirement accounts on this form. It's one of the biggest mistakes that families make when they submit the forms. The other piece is your primary home equity. So the home that you live in, the value minus any mortgage, second mortgage, HELOC, anything you have on the home, that's your equity. That is not asked about, and it's not included on the form, which is a big positive for a lot of families. And then the other piece is if you are a business owner. So there's a lot of business owners out here in Seattle, where I am. If you have a family-owned business with less than 100 full-time employees, the value of your business is not included on the form. There's a few other things that aren't included, but those are the things that really hit most families. So that's the FAFSA. Another thing, at least for the next couple of years, that's really key with the FAFSA is that if you're divorced or separated, the FAFSA only asks for the custodial parent's financial information. And the custodial parent is literally defined as wherever that child has spent the most time, a year look back from when you are hitting submit on that financial aid form. So it doesn't matter what's in your divorce decree, it's the reality of what's happening. So that can be a really nice planning opportunity. So I have big dogs. This was one of my dogs. He's gone now. But anytime, and I'm a planner, as I shared by background. So there's so many planning opportunities for families here. And so when you get knowledgeable, then you can take advantage of these opportunities. So this is a big one if you're divorced or separated. And that's with the FAFSA. The second form that's out there is called the CSS Profile. And
Hey, sorry. Can I interrupt you? And I'm going to go on because I've got a few questions that are all similar. So I think it's worth spending just 2 minutes on this. And if you would, I'm also going to share my screen here because I think that's the easiest way to talk through it. But the question is, is that I have and essentially there's different varieties of this question being asked, right? So whether it's twins like Peg, or whether you're a family that's going to have more than one kid in college at once, right? Maybe they're 2 years apart. What's going to happen when I have two kids in school at once? So right now, the formula is telling me that my federal EFC is 27,000, 35,000 for the institutional, et cetera. One thing we didn't spend too much time on is that there's actually 3 different EFCs that any given college can use here, right? But what happens when I have 2 kids in school at once? As it stands currently, it works the way that you should think it work, the way that I think is the just way for it to work. That if my income and assets remain the same, but now I have 2 kids in college, basically my EFC is still 27,000, but it's divided equally among the 2 students, right? And that is how it works today, roughly. Okay, every school is a little bit different, but basically that's how it works. There's a new change that actually just got pushed through Congress that in 2 years from now, starting in 2000 or a little bit less, starting in 2023, that rule is going away. So now that same family, that their income's still the same, their assets are still the same. Now they have 2 kids in college. Basically, they're saying they can pay double. Okay, so let me show you 2 things here. Number one, you see that Amherst College, we're saying that they're going to spend $30,000 a year for college, roughly, right? That's what it costs in year 1. But when we look at the 4-year cost, it says $100,000, right? The math doesn't add up there. The reason being is that I said it again in just this example case, is that there's going to be 1 year where there's going to be 2 kids that overlap in college. So for that year, we're going to get a big discount here. So that's why we're always thinking you got to look at this as a 4-year investment, because it is, right? At a minimum, it's not just 1 year, especially if you have siblings. But with this new rule, that's going away. So now this is going to be, this and all colleges are going to be dramatically more expensive if you're a family that has more than 1 kid, right? So I started a petition. I'll put it in the chat here, but just to show it quickly, because we have almost 60,000 signatures, as you can see. We're trying to stop this from happening and literally putting our money where our mouth is here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in the chat that petition, because we're starting to get noticed by decision makers, and it all comes down to how many signatures we get. So if this means something to you and your family, please sign it. It takes 2 seconds in this chat that I'm in this link I'm about to send, and share it. Because the more signatures we get, the better the odds are that we can stop this ridiculous thing from going through. So, I always get on my soapbox with this thing, Peg, but number one, it's a good teaching moment in terms of how it works with multiple kids. And also, again, I will pop this in the chat and encourage everybody to sign and share.
Sure. And somebody just asked about our services. We're going to talk about that toward the end. So I wrote you back, but just in case anybody else was wondering, we'll talk about that toward the end. So this second financial aid form is administered by College Board, and your kids will know College Board if they've taken AP classes, the SAT, PSAT, that's all College Board. So administered by College Board, and it's just less than about 300 colleges, mostly private, not all private, will use this form in addition to the FAFSA. It's not in lieu of the FAFSA, so keep that in mind. The key differences here as far as EFC calculation are that most of these schools will include primary home equity in some way, shape, or form, although some of them don't, right? It just depends on the school. And most of these schools will ask for the non-custodial parent information. So remember, with the FAFSA, it's just the custodial parent, and then businesses are on the table. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, wow, I've got some home equity, my number might be a little bit higher, you're probably right, because most families, it is a little bit higher. This is called the institutional EFC. So when Matt pulls up my cap again, you'll see it's that second number in. The first one is the federal one. So do all colleges do this the same? They absolutely don't. They don't discount the same. These CSS schools, they all get the form and they calculate a proprietary EFC. It's not transparent. So this is where the planning and understanding how these colleges do things could literally save you tens of thousands of dollars over a four-year time frame. And it would be too easy. If I always say, and Matt says this too, that if we had to have one answer that we picked for any parent question, it would be, it depends, because many times that's the answer to a lot of questions. Depends on the college, depends on your child, depends on your finances. So again,
people think we're being lazy when we say that, but then they have to go experience it themselves.
yeah. So this is another big planning opportunity. It doesn't mean that a CSS profile school is bad, but understanding, I have parents every year, I'm like, did you submit this? What is that? I only did the FAFSA. They don't even know that it's a requirement, and all that information is going to be at your fingertips in MyCap, so that any school you plug in there, you'll instantly be able to see what forms they require and have estimates of your EFC. So that's the need-based self-help angle. But actually, for a lot of families, they might have EFCs that are $100,000, right? So there's no need. But these families still can't afford to pay $80,000, $85,000 a year. So Merit Aid is the name of the game for discount. So what is Merit Aid? Merit Aid is a little bit different from need-based aid in some key ways. First of all, it's the Office of Admissions that's awarding Merit Aid. The other thing is, it is purely an enticement for that student to attend. So if we have some senior families here, you guys might already have kids that have already received Merit Aid. They got in, it might be in the acceptance letter. Congratulations, you got the Provost Scholarship worth $100,000. That's a $25K discount per year. They're already offering you, they have no idea your ability to pay. So they want your child, basically. So they're starting this discounting process. It's usually based on grades and test scores. And with COVID, a lot of schools flipped and they still gave out Merit Aid, even though they didn't have test scores for a lot of their applicants. And again, it depends on the college how they award this. They're not all exactly the same. And so this slide will be in your deck, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. The key takeaway here is, some schools are known for being really good at meeting need and offering little to no merit, and some schools offer both, and some schools just offer killer merit, right? So again, really important for you to understand, if you're a family with a relatively high EFC that doesn't want to pay full price, to understand how these colleges work through this. So Matt, why don't you take a minute here and just kind of show again in the software the realities of Merit Aid and some colleges and how they do this.
I thought you'd never ask. Well, I mean, and to that point too, it's, a couple things here before we drill down a little bit is, number one, the college system doesn't care where you live, right? If you're a family of five that makes $250,000 in Manhattan, you're wealthy. You're not eligible for need-based financial aid. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not a lot. If you just have one in college or in the Bay Area, they don't care. And I have a feeling, if any of you are tuning in from Manhattan or from the Bay Area or anywhere else in the country, Southern California, where the cost of living, or up here in Boston, is pretty stinking high, you don't feel like you can afford $85,000 a year for college per kid times 3 kids. And that's what the system is telling you you can afford, right? So how else do we find discounts? And to Peg's point as well, not everybody offers scholarships, right? There's not one kid on the campus of Amherst College or Columbia or Tufts or Stanford or Duke and there's some athletes that are there on a merit-based scholarship, right? They don't exist. So regardless of how talented your kid is, it's important to know, especially if you're not eligible for need-based aid or not eligible for much, are the colleges that you're applying to, do the scholarships even exist there, right? That's really important. So what we want to do is after we figure out, okay, this platform is telling us, hey, we're eligible for some financial aid or we're not. Now, based on that, in addition to seeing what schools cost me, how do I find schools that are most cost effective for my family? Now, like we said, this is a free technology. Certain pieces of it are behind a paywall. One of them is this piece right here, and we don't think it's a wildly expensive paywall, but one of them is this advanced school search, right? Let me just kind of interrupt myself here. if there's any families listening here, and I'll just show you quickly, the most expensive or the paid part of our product is $149 a year or $14.99 a month for over the course of 12 months. If you're a family that's listening to this and you said, hey, I'd like every part of this product. I want the unlimited schools. I want this advanced school search, which I'll show you in a second here, but I can't afford $149 a month. Send us an email and we comp it. We give it to you for free. We don't vet anybody. We don't ask questions. We just say, put this code into your checkout and you're going to get the product for free. So anybody that's listening that fits into that category, please reach out to us, tell us, and you're going to have full access to this without paying anything. So, and we'll try to remind you of that at the end as well. So if I want to search for schools, once I understand where I'm at, based on my kids' credentials, and I'm sure there's some students, and hopefully there's some students listening, you can just say, hey, go show me schools, for example, that are within a day's drive of my house. And I know I prefer smaller schools, and I want to major in business. Those are kind of my big ticket items, but I just want you to sort them based on who's going to give me the most scholarships. These aren't averages. These are tailor-made for you. You can rank order schools that way, right? And you might say, hey, Wheaton College, I've never heard of that, but they're going to offer a $40,000 scholarship. You know, let's add it to the list. Or if we are a family that's eligible for financial aid, you could just say, just order schools based on who's going to give me the most financial aid, right? And you might say, well, MIT, pretty stinking hard to get into MIT, but maybe I can get into Babson and Skidmore. That wasn't on my list, but they're going to be pretty generous. Let me add that to the list. This is how we want people shopping for college, right? Even if you're a senior and your list is more or less complete, go through the process and see if you find some other schools that seem pretty intriguing that are likely to be pretty affordable for you guys. Or you can just sort by who's going to be my lowest 4-year net cost for colleges, right? That's something that we can do, again, instantaneously. So that's something that we want to feature, especially if we're not going to be eligible for need-based financial aid. Just go sort schools based on who's going to be most generous with scholarships, right? Peg, do you think I talk about affordability now, or do we circle back after the fact?
Yeah, let's circle back. Let's circle back. Yeah.
Get in there.
Okay. All right. So let's just take a minute here and let's talk about how there's another planning opportunity. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts behind this. What's the timing? So for people that have seniors, if you've been in the forums, you know this, but I want to make sure everybody else understands. When it comes to the income, they're asking about income and assets on these forms. The income is a 2-year look back. So for all the senior parents here, you were inputting information for the 2020 tax year. And the easiest way to remember is whenever your child's going to school, fall, whatever that year is, subtract 2, that's your year. So for a senior, the years that are going to matter are 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. So if you have a sophomore or junior, you can do the math on that. So it's important to understand that, because you don't want to do things that create taxable income. You don't want to create capital gains. Of course, if you get a promotion, you're not going to turn it down, right? But I have this every year where people, it's like, oh, we sold our vacant land and made a bundle, and I'm just got my head in my hands. Like, why did you do that in this year, right? So that's the income side. Assets are really the flip side. It's literally the day you hit submit of the forms, the value of, remember, your non-retirement assets. So you have time to do some planning around that. And the forms go live October 1 of senior year. The CSS has been going live a week or two before that, the last 2 years, but the FAFSA is always October 1. So, but that's senior year. So if you have a junior, you can't be a go-getter and submit now because you're submitting for the wrong year, okay? So that's another planning opportunity to understand this prior year, so that I have families who are like, oh, we've got money here, we want to move it, and it's going to be a taxable event. I'm like, get it done early before you're into the years that are going to be reported on the financial aid forms. So the third step here, we're not going to get in the weeds on it. I just want everybody to understand this step. And for all you senior families, you are right on the cusp of this. We call it you're in. This is the most fun step, I think, because this is when your kids are getting in, right? You're getting acceptances, you're getting maybe some merit aid that we've talked about, and you're getting financial aid award letters that come out of from the Office of Financial Aid that have your merit on it and your full package. And then there's decisions about should we appeal? And the main takeaway here is, yes, you can appeal. No, the colleges aren't going to get mad and rescind admission to your child. They have departments that handle this. And there's some really good reasons to appeal. And sometimes you can just ask. The worst that can happen is they say, no, we can't bump up your merit, whatever you're asking for, and you're where you were at originally, right? So that is a process. That's a webinar in and of itself. We are going to be doing these webinars. So if you get into MyCap, you're in our community, you're on our list, you'll get invited to all this stuff. So keep that in mind. That's the third step. Also, within the software, you might be thinking as a senior parent, well, why would I go in there? You know, I have an only child. Well, you're going to be able to upload your award letters. You're going to be able to input the actual awards your child gets and be able to look at it this gets me, I'm a nerd, right? I'm a financial planning nerd. So you're looking at this 4-year view, right? And you're going to be able to see the funding gaps. And Matt's going to talk about that in a minute. It's going to be really powerful. I just see parents, just really helps them figure out affordability very quickly when they're at this stage where you're going to start making decisions, you know, in the second half of your child's senior year. So that's that step. This last step, which we call your adventure awaits, this is when you've got the short list and you've made a decision potentially, and you're really bringing this all together to figure out, you know, how you're going to do this. And again, always looking at the affordability. So Matt, why don't you pop in now and kind of focus on this piece?
Yep, totally. And just to re-emphasize, you know, what you just said was, when you start to get these offers from these colleges, they're presented as take it or leave it, right? You're not going to see and I've seen tens of thousands, maybe more award letters. Not one of them has said, hey, if this isn't enough money, just pick up the phone or send us an email, let us know. It's presented as take it or leave it. But like any other major investment in your life, you're going to push back on it. You're going to see if you can do better. And that's a big part of this process. That's not necessarily common knowledge. That's what we found. But to Peg's point, in the new year, we'll do a few at the end of January, in the middle, going into February, and then a little bit in early spring of what are the actual mechanics and how do we maximize our odds of going back to these colleges to get more money. So kind of sit tight on that. But the concept is a seed we want to plant as early as possible here. So let me give me 1 second, and I will show my screen. So like Peg talked about, from a big picture standpoint here, yes, we want to know, just kind of a knee jerk, what are these colleges actually going to cost me? But the next question should be, can I afford it? Right? And it's not just a 1-year investment. It's a 4-year investment times however many kids that we're trying to send to college here. So that's something that, again, we want to be in your face about. Is this a good investment? Is there a reasonable expectation that we're going to get a return on this investment? So front and center, we want to say, yeah, this is a great investment. This is a good investment, or this is something that we want to take a closer look. Now, obviously, we're not trying to speak about, are these good institutions, bad institutions? NYU is a phenomenal institution, obviously. But for this particular family, the risk versus reward is something they're going to want to take a closer look at. And again, it doesn't mean they have to sacrifice the quality of the education. Columbia is a pretty good stinking school in the same city, right? So if we want to take a closer look, right, how do we get there? Now, again, on the surface, we want to know, what's the school going to cost me over the course of 4 years? Not the sticker price, but what's it going to cost me? How much can my family afford before we have to borrow? We have a trademark term called your college pre-approval. It's a 1-minute process that we do in our system here that helps you understand what you can come up with, if anything, over the course of 4 years before you have to borrow. And then what's the delta ultimately, right? But then we want to just drill down another layer. Okay, from a high level, good, great, ideal. Okay, I see that, but why? right? And we found in our experience, and again, I'm picking on NYU here a little bit. They don't need any help. They're not gonna. There's not gonna be any empty beds there this year, next year, or for the foreseeable future here. And again, it's a world-class institution. If any NYU folks are listening, but what does it mean to borrow $121,000 for this particular student? That's an abstract figure for high school kids and for most parents that we've come across. And we have a lot of financial planners that use our technology. They don't know if that's a good investment. So another way to look at that is, if I borrow $120,000, what's my first monthly payment going to be when I graduate on that loan? And how does that compare with my take-home pay based on my major at that particular institution? Right now, again, we're able to do this instantaneously. If you don't know your major, just say undecided, and we'll still give you some metrics there. But does this delta make sense? And for here, especially if we're going to live in Manhattan, the math, it doesn't look great. So that's why we just want to be cautious here. And again, we'll talk about exactly why that is, but it's really important to, in addition to knowing what these schools cost, when we look at this as an overall investment, what do we think our odds are of this being a great outcome for the student and for the family as a whole, right? And like Peg mentioned, in addition to just having the statistics and the numbers, we want to support everybody beyond that. So we have education built into the platform, right? So line by line instructions with the FAFSA, with the CSS Profile, on-demand courses, live courses. There's a private scholarships search engine with $5.1 billion in there. And like Peg mentioned, once we actually get awards, we can upload them onto here so we can help you know how to best negotiate and compare awards from each of these colleges. And once I get in the tool, I get a little too excited, so I don't want to get sidetracked too much here, Peg. But the concept is we want to have an idea, what's our likelihood of a good end result here ultimately? And obviously the focus has been more on the financial and our experience, and all the intangibles are at least equally as important here. But let's be able to have a pretty decent idea of what the measurables are likely going to look like before we make this massive decision. So Peg, hopefully I didn't get too far off track here, but that's important stuff here, I think. And you're muted, buddy.
I was typing and I didn't want to be loud while you were doing your thing. There was one question that came in that's a great question that's just easier to verbally answer. So somebody asked about 529s that are owned by a grandparent, and this is really common, versus a parent owning a 529. So if a parent owns a 529, you can use it. There's no adverse impact. A grandparent, on the other hand, is not on the financial aid forms, obviously, right? So you've got a little strategy, at least for the next couple of years before rules change, to think about when you're using those funds. There's a concept called untaxed income in the financial aid world. It's not a tax thing. It doesn't cross over to your tax return in any way. But when people are helping a student that are not reported on the financial aid forms, that is considered income to that student. So it can adversely affect an EFC. So as I said, it really depends on the family. For some families, take the help whenever you want. You don't need to strategize. Other families that might be getting certain need-based aid, you don't want the college to raise your EFC and lose that because you take help in a year that hurts you, basically. So just that's something to dig in on an individual level if there's some strategizing that you need to do. The other thing that somebody asked, and I answered it, but it's a good question, is 529s. If you are the owner of them, you need to disclose the balance of all of them, not just the student you're working with, your child, your oldest child. And I just lost my train of thought. There's something. Include all of them. I forget what I was going to say.
Well, I think it's if you have 3 kids and you have $20,000 in each of their 529s.
Yeah, you want to include. God, there was something else. Okay.
You don't want to include.
You don't want to, but
that's the
oh, I know what I was going to say. And that's a parent asset because you're the owner of the 529. That's a big mistake. That it makes sense. You think, well, it's for my child, so that's my child's asset. No. Assets for kids are 20 to 25% assessed. You want to keep it, and it's the right way to do it. That's a parental asset. So that wasn't asked, but it's just another thing to keep in mind.
And again, I'm going to say exactly what you said, but so especially for, for everybody, because even if you're a class 2022 family that already submitted your financial aid applications, student assets have much more scrutiny placed on them than parent assets. And before we even get into the specifics of the formula, basically the colleges say, if there's money in the kid's name, that should come to us. We understand that mom and dad have to retire someday and have other expenses and a mortgage, blah, blah, blah. But if there's money in the kid's name, that should come to the college. Okay. 529s are owned by the parents, the grandparents, whatever. They're not owned by the kids. So if you have a 529, do not put it in this as a student asset, even though logic would tell you to do that, right? And common knowledge would tell you to do that. So again, even if you're a class 2022 parent that submitted the financial aid applications and reported the 529 as a student asset, correct your forms because it can have a huge difference on your financial aid eligibility.
Yep. Okay, so thanks for those questions. Those are great questions. Okay, we're getting close to wrapping up here. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but Matt talked about loans. So this is, if you're going to think about loans, all of us don't love loans, but I'm assuming most of us on here have a mortgage, right? Sometimes that's part of a funding strategy. Responsible debt is okay, crazy debt is not, right? So if you submit the FAFSA, your child is eligible for what's called a direct student loan. So you will have this slide. Definitely take some time looking it over, because if you are considering debt, this is absolutely the first place you go, and all you have to do is submit the FAFSA. Your child will automatically be awarded these. They'll sign a promissory note, go through some online counseling. That's it. There's no application. You don't have to do anything. So that will be in your slide deck that you get. Okay. That's another planning opportunity, right? Understanding those loans, because they're use it or lose it. So I've had many times where they use up all their 529 and it's junior year, and then they're frantic because they don't have any more money and they can't go back and take those really low interest rate loans from the government because they lost that opportunity. So again, 4-year view. Everything should be done in a 4-year view. The colleges would rather have you go year by year and make your decision based on year one, but that's not what's prudent. So we've gone through at a high level this whole process, and you can kind of see where you fit in here. So we'd love to continue to support you. And the first way is to definitely get in MyCap. You've got the link. You got it here again. Go in there. It's free. And then Matt's going to take a couple minutes. I know this is a busy slide, but I wanted to have it in the deck so that people had it. He's going to show you where you can go if you want full platform access, or if you want an hour to ask questions. And I handle those strategy sessions. And the other thing that I want to point out is for people that are on this webinar and are in this partnership that we have with Saving for College, there's a coupon code. You see it right there, 15% off. That will get you 15% off, so take advantage of that because you're part of this community. So here, Matt, I will stop share again, and you can hop in and just show people once they're in there where they can see that.
Yeah, and I put in the chat, Peg, I put in there both the link that you all should go to and the coupon code. And so Save for College is a partner of ours. So anybody that comes through our platform from Saving for College, you go to that unique link, you put the 15% coupon code off, and you get that deal, which we'd encourage you to take advantage of. So to Peg's point, you should, in our opinion, we want to support you in some way, right? If you want to do the free version of it, do it. You're still going to have access to everything in our academy, our line by line, instructions on the FAFSA, on demand, and live courses. If
live Q&A twice a month, we have
live Q&A twice a month, our office hours in the community. If you go to type a question in there, it's being answered by experts. It's Peg and myself and our team that we consider to be kind of the top of the food chain in this niche industry that we've lived in for our careers here. And if you upgrade beyond the freemium, one thing with the free product, the limitations are, again, you can only put 3 schools in there. You don't get that advanced search. You don't get the private scholarship search engine, among some other things, unless, again, you can't afford our price points, right? And again, our price points are, it's $149 for the year, or $14.99 a month, not including the 15% off. But Peg's a humble gal. I've come to learn over the years here. If you sign up for the $299, you get the full bells and whistles of the product for a year, but you get 1 hour of Peg, right? And to me, I pay 1 hour of Peg just talk about anything, Peg. Right. but if you know, and some of the big ticket items, especially for you class 2022 families, it's, reviewing your financial aid forms. Are there any other colleges we should be thinking about? How should we negotiate for more money with this college? What's the best loan to take if we're going to have to borrow anything? These are the questions that you should be thinking about. And if you're a younger parent, where do I start? Have I saved enough money? Should I save more? Who's going to give? Am I eligible for financial aid? Which, of course, the platform is going to give a good idea of. But go to that link, sign up for something. Put the coupon code in, and again, you're not meeting with somebody random. It's going to be Peg if you come through that channel. So we recommend it. And again, we wouldn't be saying it with so much confidence if we didn't believe that it wasn't going to be a great return on the investment, regardless of how you're interfacing with us. And we're not going anywhere. Right. I mean, like me and Peg are doing this throughout the year. Every year we've been doing it our entire careers. We're not stopping anytime soon. We're the ones that are in the community. We're the ones that are constantly coaching and teaching the academy. It's what we love. It's our mission. So however you want to do it, we just want you to know that we're a resource for you. And again, if you're a family that says, I'd love to take advantage of this, but I can't afford it, email us and you will get full access and you're not going to pay for it. So I think those are the big ticket items, Peg. I mean, did I miss anything? And
no, I'm just going to wrap up here. So I just want to.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wrap up. I always like to end on this note. So I started by sharing with you about my kids. So here's my kids graduating from high school. And again, I just really want to impress on you that if you own this, right? However you want to do it, you own it. You can go through this process without all the stress that Matt and I see constantly with families, right? And I did this with my kids. I laid the most beautiful thing about this is that you can set expectations for your kids. So when you understand where you fit at different schools, you can say, you know what? That's great if you get into that dream school, but that's going to require you to find some outside money, some private scholarship money, because we know X, Y, and Z, and this is what we're willing to bring to the table. And you tell your child that. So when they're applying, they understand it. So if they get in, you don't have a child really irritated with you, and sometimes rightly so, because they did all this hard work and they got in and now they can't go. And this is exactly what I did with my son. He was flown out to a school in Pennsylvania, had a great time, had 2 schools on his short list. Of course, he wanted to go there. That's why the college flew him out there. And we did our 4-year review. And I said, Brennan, it's $70,000 more. And he looked at me and he said, I get it. I'm going to go to the other school. And he had a great time, went to Indiana, go Hoosiers, and thrived, right? But there was no friction. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And you guys can do this too. They got out of school. They both had great experiences. They're supporting themselves completely. So it's just a win-win for everybody. So
and you're selling yourself short, Peg. They're more than supporting themselves. They've landed on their feet, and some, I can say, is an unbiased third party here.
Yeah, they're doing well. So I love to end with this slide. And as Matt said at the beginning, talking about his family and his Emma being only 7, I'll tell you that when you're, and I sometimes get choked up even talking about this, when you're standing there and they're waving at the dorm and you're driving away or they're driving away, it's going to be here before you know it. So enjoy this time and just realize this is a big investment. This is a big purchase, and just do your due diligence. It'll make you sleep at night better. And if you've done it, your child's excited because you found a great academic and personal fit school, but it's affordable. I just talked to a dad today who has a child at a school. I'm not going to mention it. And he's just like, I can't believe how expensive this is. And he's only in the first semester of his freshman year, and he's about ready to pay the second semester, and he wants help. So again, he's not in a position of power, right? So he didn't do his homework. So hopefully I feel good that Matt and I have given you a good foundation, and we're giving you a free tool to jump in at the very least. Please do that, or we haven't done our job here, right? Get in there and just start learning so you can be a proactive consumer in this process.
That's right.
I don't see, did you? Yeah.
No, I think we're good. I think we're caught up on questions. Got a lot of great questions. Appreciated all of them. And hopefully folks know more now than they did an hour or so ago. So Mark, I don't know if you have anything in closing, but it sounds like we're in business here, and everybody will have the follow-up from us tomorrow, but I'll let you.
Yeah, thank you both for that. That was really insightful. And we'll send out that follow-up tomorrow, which will include the recording, the slides, as well as the survey. So thank you all.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Stay well. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
I know.